Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. We'll get started in just a moment while we wait for a few more attendees to come. It's great to see everyone who's here. Feel free to find the questions and chat area of the webinar panel and let us know which council you're representing and which part of the UK you're in, your region. It's always great to see who we have on the call. Awesome. Great. Welcome to those who are just coming in. We'll get started in just a moment for our webinar today. Feel free to go to the questions and chat area and let us know which council you're representing and the region that you're in here in the UK. All right, great. Good responses there. Thank you. It's so great to see everyone today. We'll go ahead and dive in. Welcome to our webinar from clicks to carers, 5 digital marketing secrets to help your council find more foster families. We're excited to host today's webinar. If this is your first time joining the webinar with Local IQ, again, welcome. We are a multi-channel digital marketing agency. We specialize in SEO, search engine optimization, paid search, as well as paid social advertising, display advertising, and much, much more. We're also a part of the NewsQuest Media Group, which consists of more than 200 trusted local news brands across the UK. So chances are in your region, there is a local news brand published by NewsQuest in your particular area. So we're excited to host today's session. And today's session, here's what we're going to cover today. We've got 5 secrets from the things that we've learned from working with councils all over the UK that we want to share with you. We've got 5 things. And in fact, I want to invite my colleague, Richard Dowling, who's going to be taking us through. Hey, Rich, are you with us?
Morning, Brandon.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for joining us today. So you're going to help us go through today's conversation. And we're going to cover those 5 things around the questions of things like, what is an always-on approach as it relates to digital marketing? How should digital marketing channels and tactics be prioritized? Why the website is key to success in the marketing campaigns, and how councils can get higher quality leads as well as even compete with other agencies who seemingly have much larger budgets than some councils may have. So I want to encourage everyone, you don't feel rushed to take notes because we're recording today's webinar and we'll make sure that we send the replay out to everyone who's registered for today. But Rich, I especially wanted you to join us today to take us through these 5 secrets because you've got quite a bit of experience with our company as well as with working specifically with councils around fostering, right?
Yeah, so I've worked for the business for around 10 years. Spent half of that time in local publishing, where I worked with a lot of councils, partly on fostering, but partly on other campaigns as well, and other focuses. And in the last 5/6 years, I've been part of our DMS digital marketing channel. And across that period, I've helped probably in the region of 20 local councils with finding foster carers online. Some of those are collaborations, multiple councils, some are standalone councils. And along that journey, obviously learned quite a lot about what the right tactics are to try and find foster carers.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today and being open to sharing some of those secrets and some of those insights. So let's go ahead and dive in. The first secret, Rich, I think that this comes because so many councils only, particularly invest resources in marketing sometimes at certain points of the year. For example, like around foster care fortnight, it's a good 2 week period. There are national campaigns. Everybody's talking about it. So it seems like that could be the best time to activate some of the marketing activities. But secret number one is to have an always on approach to digital marketing. So can you tell us about that and why that's like a secret to success for councils?
Yeah, so probably stating the obvious here for anyone who works in this area, but this isn't a quick process deciding to become a foster carer. So typically people take anything from 18 months to 3 years to go from that conceptual idea of could I foster a child through to applying to become a foster parent. So the process being long kind of leads itself into having a marketing strategy that follows people on that journey. And you can see on the infographic on the right hand side here, the search volumes by month. So those are UK-wide search volumes, and you can see January there's a bit of a spike, start of the calendar year. April into May, which usually coincides with foster care fortnight, not quite as high a spike, but it's a little bit higher than other months. But there's a really healthy search volume, and I always thought disproportionate to our belief that those were the key periods in which to recruit foster carers. So, and it makes a lot of sense, right? So foster care fortnight, we're in the midst of that now. That's a great opportunity to reach those people there at conceptual stage. They're thinking about, could I become a foster carer? Now they may make an inquiry with an IFA or a council at this moment, but if they are at conceptual phase, the chances of them going through that process right now are pretty slim. And the feedback we get from a lot of councils is actually around this point in time, foster care fortnight, we see that influx of inquiry, but we don't necessarily see that influx in application or a good standard of application, because people haven't been through the process they need to go through to understand what it takes to become a foster parent and to make sure it's right for them. That process, that consideration phase, takes place from now through the year and into next year. So that's the key reason really why it's important to be always on and always make sure that you, particularly in the search space, so looking at Google, Bing, other search engines, people's consideration phase is going to be spent there in that space, searching questions, trying to make sure that they qualify, that they meet the criteria, that it's the right decision for them. So a quick tip would be, there's a tool online that you can use called Answer the Public. So if you Google, or Bing, if you use Bing, Google that term, you can put in foster care into that tool as a keyword, and what it'll send out to you is all the different questions people are searching around foster care. Now that's a great opportunity to have a think about your content strategy. So what my FAQs, that might be a good starting point. So what are the questions people are asking? Make sure you've got some content on your website that serves those questions. And then the last thing to note on this slide, that search volume of 82,500, that's a pre-pandemic search volume. So looking now in 2023, there's fewer searches. I think the number's around 63,000 searches per month related to foster care. Now we're in a very challenging situation, I suppose, where we've got fewer people searching, so fewer people who've actively got intent, and more IFAs in those spaces, working alongside you to try and find those foster carers. So it's more prevalent than ever for you to want to be in that space and answering those questions specifically that people are asking during their consideration phase.
Yeah, no, thanks for mentioning that. And that makes sense as to why an always on approach could help, because when cases like during the foster care fortnight type campaigns, inquiries can increase, but like you mentioned, it's not an immediate decision that people will make. It's a longer process, and so it's great to be in front of them during this time, but you have to stay engaged with them. And even if they aren't engaged with you, you have to still make sure your counsel is positioned to show up at the right time when they do go back and search or start looking for more information. That makes sense. The next secret, if council does adopt this always on digital marketing approach, sure, they may be able to do something every month, but budgets aren't limitless. We have a cap budget, so at that point, since you can't do everything all the time, uh, although we need to have a consistent presence, we have to talk about how to prioritize. And so I think that's the second secret, prioritizing digital marketing tactics by considering that customer journey that you were kind of talking about. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, Rich?
Yeah, so in an ideal world, we want to reach people that are about to start thinking about becoming foster carers. And we want to reach people in that consideration phase. We're in the middle, they're searching for those questions that I mentioned earlier. And then ultimately, we want to make sure we're in front of people at the back end of that journey as well when they're ready to apply. So starting with the awareness phase, which you've got on the left-hand side of the screen, Brandon, the tactic there, those people haven't got any intent yet. They're about to become aware. They're about to become interested. So how do we reach those people? Typically, social media is a great platform. There's a lot of people there. I would say social media / display. They're the two areas. So
display advertising.
Yes, these people don't have any intent yet. We need to make them aware, and there's a hidden benefit to this as well. So it's not just about let's make them aware and get them within that journey of thinking about becoming a foster carer. It's about what happens at the back end of the journey as well. So the more they're exposed to your brand at this moment, the more likely they're to have confidence, trust in you as an organisation, and see you as their preferred party to want to foster with, rather than one of the others. So that's kind of the hidden element to social and display advertising. That yes, I can make them aware, I can bring them into that sphere and that thinking of becoming a foster carer, but ultimately, because they've been exposed so much to my brand and my brand messaging in that time, when they come to the end of the journey, they see you as their preferred choice. Then into the consideration phase, and ultimately into the decision phase as well. That's more about the people who are demonstrating intent. So that would be the search arena. So across Google and Bing, how prominent am I in search results for all of those questions that people are searching for? And that's really where I'd suggest to people to go and have a look at Answer the Public. It's a great little tool that'll give you some insights into the types of things people are searching for.
Yeah, that's really important too, because sometimes when all businesses, all industries set up paid search advertising campaigns in particular, they create the text ads. And if they work with a company like Look Like You, we can work with you to actually create the text ads for you. But one additional secret is make sure that you update those text ads regularly using the information and insights that you're getting from tools like answerthepublic.com, from conversations that you're having with these prospective carers, and then rework to come up with different versions of those text ads. Rich, can you talk about like just what some of those search queries are that people may be searching for during that consideration phase? Because I'm sure it's things like that councils will want to make sure they have ads around them, or even just make sure that type of information is on their website.
Yeah, you get a lot of questions early on in the journey. So, early consideration phase, what's the difference between fostering and adoption? Now, you would argue that someone who searches for that and then applies immediately might not be the best candidate. That's far early on. What you want them to do is land on your website, consume, digest some content, and then maybe convert a few months down the line into an application. You see a lot of questions around the financial incentive to foster, which is, I think, a really interesting topic. So it's being able to differentiate between somebody who's perhaps financially incentivized to foster versus somebody who is financially considerate. And what I mean by that is a lot of councils we talk to don't necessarily want people whose primary motivator to foster is being a financial one. We want people who are, when you think about the consideration phase, someone who's really making the right decision for them is going to be financially conscious around the implications of becoming a foster carer. And the hard thing, I suppose, is you're going to search the same sorts of terms to reach your conclusion. And that's why, again, content on your website, the way you portray yourself in that moment is really important. Make sure that you're educating people around that point. But there are tons of different types of questions. There's questions like, I can't think of the exact terms now, but around the tax implications of being a foster carer.
Okay, like our foster care payments, like earned income on taxes and such.
Yeah, things like that. And it's a really, on the surface, that looks like someone who's potentially fostering for the wrong reasons, but in actual fact, that is a completely natural journey for someone to go down if their intent is to become a really good foster carer. But I've got children at home. Children cost money. You have to think about these things and whether you're going to be able to look after them well. So it's a normal and natural journey for people to go down, I think. So my suggestion would be don't shy away from answering some of those questions as well online.
Cool, thanks for that. So just to recap on this, make sure I understand, and especially for the audience, and I want to encourage the audience too, if you have questions, feel free to put your questions into the questions and chat area, and then towards the end, we're going to have a Q&A component, and we'll be able to answer some of those questions live. We've also got some colleagues who are monitoring the chat live here too, so they may be able to answer your questions while we're going through the content. So again, just to recap this secret, this is about aligning digital marketing tactics to that customer journey, Rich. And so you're saying display advertising, paid social is great for that awareness phase. When you do and implement paid search strategies, this is showing up on Google and Bing, even working with your SEO perhaps. This is making sure that you're coming up for people who at least seem to be in that consideration phase. They have questions. They're going to a search engine like Google or Bing to get the answer. You want them to land on your website. You want your counsel to come up in that space. We know that this isn't an immediate decision, and so very likely they'll leave your website, right, without converting, but that doesn't mean it's a missed opportunity for the council because they can implement strategies like you have here, retargeting ads. So ads that are designed not for that new audience, but for the audience who came to your website but left. You can target some specific messages to them to bring them back to your funnel. So did I get all that right, Rich?
Absolutely, yeah. That last piece is key, isn't it? Because that consideration phase, only a very small percentage of your web traffic is going to convert to become a foster carer. Everyone else is going to go away and keep going through that consideration phase, doing the research. So the more you can promote your brand in that moment, the stronger your conversion is going to be.
Cool, good deal. Let's keep it going. Again, if you have questions, feel free to put that into your questions area on this webinar platform. So secret number 3 is that your website is the key to your success in all your marketing campaigns. And Rich, this isn't just for the councils, this is really for all industries, right? Because you think about when you have a paid social ad, typically you're bringing them back to your website. If you have even offline marketing, your website's going to be on it. So it's like your website is the crossroads of all of the different marketing activity and tactics that a business can implement. But Rich, can you tell us just about what some of the challenges you've seen specifically around councils and the mission that they have around fostering?
Yeah, so the councils tend to fall into one of 3 camps with their online presence, if you like, in terms of a website for fostering. Number 1 is your fostering pages sit within the council website. You have quite a lot of limitation around the type of content you can carry, where forms might be on the site, whether a phone number displays in a certain place. So for a lot of these councils and the marketing leads and the fostering leads that we talk to, that's a big frustration for them. They'd love to have a little bit more creative license. Now the challenge, if you're in that situation, is you're trying to promote quite an emotively driven decision, deciding to bring a child into your home, very emotive, on quite a corporate website. Someone goes to that website to look at bin recycling around Christmas or council tax information. If it looks the same as that's a challenge often for councils, along with where do my call to actions go? Are they at the right points of the site? There's a big benefit though Some of our best performing campaigns with local councils are ones that don't have an independent website, and that's because you've got the brand trust. So people know the council. If you think of the types of people that foster, usually they fall into three camps. You've got people who you've got people who are maybe empty nesters, children have come and gone. Then you've got camp 2, which I suppose is people who've got a strong financial consideration. And then you've got camp 3, which are people that usually a professional background really fits the profile for being a good foster parent. So that would be, ironically, council staff who are usually a great fit, teachers, doctors, nurses, social caregivers, people who already do something that's kind of in the same the same sphere, I suppose. Now, for those people, they tend to have a standing within the community. They're very community focused. Now, you've got a brand that talks to them already, so that's the big benefit of being in a space where you're having to run your fostering activity off the council website. You've gained some brand trust. Then you've got scenario 2, which is you've got an independent website. So we see this more often where we've got multiple councils collaborating on a project. The benefit there is you can make your website look exactly like an IFA site, I suppose. You can make it talk to the audience completely how you want it to. I suppose the negative is potentially you lose some of that brand affinity that we talked about in the first scenario. And then you have scenario 3, which for me is the holy grail. It's the best option. You've got a website which is part of the council website, your content, but it looks and feels slightly different to the rest of the pages on the council website. So it's almost like a microsite within the site. And what that allows you to do is get a best of both worlds scenario where you can maintain all that brand affinity and familiarity with your local council, whilst having some more creative license over the content, the style of the pages, where the calls to action sit. So if anyone's, certainly for anyone who's in that first camp, all your pages look like the other council website pages. I'd encourage you to maybe speak to your IT teams and web developers about where's the opportunity here. Can we try and change the structure, the DNA of those pages slightly so that we can talk to people in a more emotive way and talk to them about the benefits as well. That's really key.
Yeah, and I love that tip right there because, sometimes we can always want to do things, but we need some, or if we had data behind, our desire to do certain things, it can make that whole decision process a little easier, especially when it comes to getting stakeholders to, agree to make things like getting a new website, on the table to be an action item for the council. And so I love how you have it there in that, you can use metrics like try to find out how many visitors your council is getting to your website or to that particular section. It talks about fostering, and then compare that to your conversion rates, the number of inquiries and leads you're getting or not getting, and if you aren't getting as many as you like, you can position those two numbers to your teams to say, we should really look at how we position our website. Maybe it needs to restructure, or maybe we need to look at our content a little bit more so that we can build in that emotive aspect that we talked about, because this topic is very, very different from recycling, and so although we've got the brand, we should be able to communicate that message in that heartfelt way just as much as we want to attract people who have that sense of care. So good point there. I'll also mention, when you get the recording to this webinar, you'll also get the PowerPoint slides, and you'll be able to click on certain things like this webinar, which is an on-demand webinar where we talked about extensively common website mistakes that a lot of businesses make and how you can avoid them. So if you're in that space and thinking about what you can do with your website and how things can be different, I'd encourage you to watch that webinar as well as perhaps a few others that we have. So, so secret 3 is about your website being the key to your success. So, Rich, let's say that we're happy with our website. All right, so that's the assumption. We're happy with our website. Now we want to talk about starting to get traffic to that website, or just advertising in general, because even if our website's not great, there are things that we can do still online through digital marketing to start generating leads and getting connected with the families. But when we were talking, you described that the next secret that council should be aware of is that, audience targeting is key to getting higher quality leads, and even things like form optimizations and just that nurturing process is really important.
Yeah, so generating leads is fairly straightforward, but there's no point having hundreds of leads, but none of those people are really serious about becoming foster parents. So I suppose the starting point would be, okay, what if you've got a website that you're not happy is designed for lead conversion? What do you do then? Now, one tactic we've deployed is Facebook lead ads. So putting ads in front of people on Facebook that say, are you interested in becoming a foster carer? Find out more, fill in this form whilst on Facebook. And whilst that's a really effective tactic for lead generation, the challenge is that the lead quality isn't always super high. And a lot of the feedback we get from councils who've worked with other agencies in the past is exactly that. Got lots of leads, didn't get lots of foster carers. So the real question is, well, if we're in that space where we can't rely on the traffic we send to the website resulting in inquiries, how do we do it? Now, Facebook lead ads is still a great tactic, but it's about the people who see that advert in the first place. Well, two things: one, who see it in the first place, and secondly, how we qualify them in and out in that form. So starting with the end, how do we qualify them in and out? When they see the ad and click on find out more or sign up or apply, which might be a slightly strong call to action for someone who's right at the start of that consideration phase, we can ask them a few questions that helps us identify whether they're likely to be a good candidate or a candidate for now. So examples of some of the questions we ask within that form are, have you fostered before? That's a pretty good indicator if someone knows, what's likely to come. Do you have a spare bedroom? It's a requirement. If they don't, they're not going to be able to foster for the most part. Things like which council do you pay your council tax to is a great question, just in case you've got people who are living in on the borders or slightly different areas. That's a good question to qualify in and out. And then another point, the feedback we've had often is, once people fill in that form, it's really hard to get hold of them. So questions like, what's the best way of us contacting you? Phone, email, text, WhatsApp, make the options limitless there. And once you contact them via their preferred method, you see the connection rates being far stronger because they're expecting that point of contact. You could even ask a question like, would you be interested in coming to one of our drop-in sessions? And if they say yes, because a lot of these people filling in the form are tomorrow's foster carers rather than today's, they go onto a mailing list then. If we've got anyone on the call who doesn't have a mailing list set up, I'd really encourage you to start one. You can use a free platform like MailChimp. Great way of making sure people are up to date with what you've got going on, things like drop-in sessions. A brilliant way of people early on in the stage seeing what the process really looks like and figuring out if it's going to work for them. The second thing we've done to great success is look at the conversion rate from someone filling in that form through to becoming a registration of interest. And the way we've fine-tuned the audience is around Mosaic. Now, a lot of councils are probably familiar with Mosaic. Quite often we hear, yeah, we used to have access to Mosaic data, but it was expensive, so we don't have it anymore. One of the things we do is for every council we work with, we look at Mosaic profiling where it's relevant and where we've got some data. So keeping this really simple for anyone who's not familiar with it, the way it works is you've got the postal addresses of your current foster carers. Now that data is GDPR friendly, GDPR safe. There's no personal information in there. Now it will become personal if you put a house number on or attach a name to that postal address. Well, the postcode independently is really GDPR friendly. Now we can put all those postcodes together and we can analyze from that what the profile of your existing cohort of foster carers looks like, and what better place to start to find new foster carers than to say, I want my next batch of foster carers to look exactly like my current cohort. And we've done this not just for fostering, we've done it in other areas. I was telling Brandon a few days ago, we actually did this for my son's nursery when he was a little bit younger. And they've got many nurseries around the northwest of England. And they gave us some data, we analysed it, and we were able to go back to them and say, this is what your ideal family looks like. And there was some stuff in there that was fairly vanilla, not overly exciting, at least when I looked at the data. Things like they're educated to a certain level, they live in a certain type of house, they live within a certain radius of the nursery. And then there's some stuff in the middle where it starts to get quite juicy and interesting, like they drive diesel cars, they shop at Tesco. And the eureka moment for me was, I remember it was a sunny day, I was sat with my patio doors open, and one of the things that came out was your ideal family will own pet rabbits. And I had 2 rabbits in the garden at the time, my little boy's rabbits, and it was just this, as I say, eureka moment of this stuff's really powerful. It can really drill down and find your ideal customer type. Now, if we use some of that targeting then to overlay into our Facebook targeting, and we get the radiuses right, all of a sudden you're squeezing out those people that aren't quite suitable, and you're focusing on the people that are most likely to be. So you're eliminating some wastage, and that's how we push the conversion rate from form fills up from usually around 1%. Our aim is to try and get them to around 4%. And if we do that, that's how we make the budget work a little bit harder.
Well, yeah, and I've seen this mosaic in action, and you're right. It can be very spot on in terms of the profile that it builds for for your potential customers, or in this case, carers, as to the information that they have about them and how that can align, and how the more information you have about your ideal carer, you can incorporate that into your strategy. And I thought that was interesting as to how your son's school nursery used Mosaic Profile, and there were elements in that profile that fit you and your family down to your family pets. So that's probably the store that you shop at too. So that's really interesting, and to see how councils can use it. And so the way I've seen it too in the campaigns, it provides the different postcodes, like you mentioned, that have those audiences mostly in those regions, and then we can incorporate those postcodes into the geo-targeting aspects of whatever campaign it is, whether it's paid search or paid social. That's accurate, right, Rich? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Good deal. Awesome. So I see some really great questions in the chat, and some of our team members are answering them live, so that's great. We're going to come back and answer some of them as well as soon as we finish this last secret, which is secret 5. Local is your superpower when competing with independent agencies. And I think, Rich, this comes because a lot of councils may think when you're trying to compete with an independent agency, the independent agency probably has 50, 100,000 pound worth of marketing budget, and we probably only have a fraction of that as a council. But the secret that you suggested was that local is a superpower. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, there's 3 points to make on this one in particular. So the first is, it's for me a little bit of a misconception or a false fear that the IFAs are spending a lot more in this space. Yeah, they've got big budgets, some of them. If you look at the, maybe I shouldn't name drop on a webinar, some of the big IFAs, they'll be spending a lot of money, but they're spending it across the UK. So of that budget, how much of it is being spent in the county or the city or the town where you're trying to attract foster carers? And it does become quite like for like when you look at the small geographies. So,
Yes.
if I'm a corner shop selling Lucozade, I don't need to worry about how many bottles of Lucozade Tesco sell 200 miles from me. It's irrelevant. I just want my local market. So you can absolutely compete. I would say that 90–95% of the councils we talk to can compete on a local level with all the IFAs. Financially, particularly across the search space, you can muscle in there. That there's nothing stopping you. So that's the first point. The second, and we've mentioned this on the call earlier, but don't underestimate the power of your brand. So particularly for first-time foster carers who are in that consideration phase, if when they want a Google search or any search, if the first 3 things they see whether that's on paid ads or in the organic listings, is 2 IFAs and you and the council. The only one of those 3 that they're probably familiar with at that moment is the council. And that's because of the brand leverage you've got within your local area. That's an unbelievable power at that point. So make sure you're in that space competing with the IFAs. You'll generate clicks that they just can't generate because they've not got that brand loyalty in place. And then the final thing is, this isn't just about Google. So a lot of IFAs will focus, quite rightly, on Google. That'll be their main search space. And that's because the vast majority of people, the majority are using Google. In the UK, 5% of searches are conducted on Bing. This could be an area that some of the IFAs that you're competing with locally aren't focused on. The great thing about Bing is 2/3 of their audience is ABC1 demographic, and 2/3 are 45 plus. And what that screams to me is that's the empty nesters. That's that segment of the potential foster carers, the ones who fit that empty nester profile. They're a perfect demographical fit. So great place to go. Probably less competitive because a lot of the IFAs will be Google only. So consider Bing as an and, not an alternative, but an and option. And everything we do, every campaign we runs across Google and Bing. And for us, I think the motto is, this isn't about being top of Google. This is about being in the space that's going to get you the highest volume of good quality, meaningful inquiries, whether that's Google or Bing or another search engine or a social channel.
Well, thanks for mentioning that. And you mentioned about, I want to double down on that, because when you're in the marketing space, and for many, this may not be their first responsibility to manage these types of campaigns. When you do get involved with digital advertising, it can be a lot of work, especially as you're trying to make sure you have presence across social channels, from Facebook to Instagram to Twitter and such. And then even with your paid search campaigns, there are a lot of elements to that. And then even platforms like Google and Bing. And, it can take a lot of individual effort for each of those channels. But you mentioned it, and I just want to make sure we don't pass it, in that a lot of the campaigns that run with our local IQ platform runs on both Google and Bing. And then we have a technology too, where certain campaigns, can you just talk about how we manage budget allocation, and also just help that whole optimization process between channels?
Yeah, so AI is a hot topic, isn't it, at the moment? We've got some AI, which is industry leading. And the way it works is we have one budget that focuses across Google, Bing, Facebook, and Instagram. And with every click, whether that's a click on a Facebook ad or a Google paid ad or anywhere else, every click it will look at, did that click increase or decrease my cost per good quality lead? And we can build some weightings into the leads as well. So we know that Facebook lead ad form is going to convert at 4%. We know a telephone call from a Google search campaign will convert at around 12%. So we can factor in the variance there. And with every click, as I say, we identify has that click impacted the cost per inquiry in a positive or negative way. And from that, decide where we spend the next pound of marketing budget, which channel. Really powerful, great way of being able to drive more leads for less budget, and something that the IFAs in the local area won't be using as well. So it's a real USP that you can, I suppose, put in your tool belt for your marketing strategy.
Yeah, and again, I want to stress that other part too, as you talk about having an always on digital marketing strategy, and we have a limited budget. Again, that can be a lot of headache to think about. Okay, if I only have £3,000 to £5,000 a month, where should I put £500? Where should I put another £500? But with the technology that we have that you just described, we let our technology, our AI systems, do the math as to, we put in one budget and then it'll figure out where the rest of the budget should be allocated based off of results, right? So that's a good set of machine learning that's there. Awesome, great. So we've got about 5 more minutes, and I see a lot of questions being answered by our colleagues in the background. So thank you very much for that. But just a quick review, recap. So these are the 5 secrets that we've learned, especially Rich has shared from working with councils, having an always-on digital marketing approach, making sure that you align the digital marketing channels that you and tactics that you implement with the customer journey, making sure that you don't neglect your website and really position that as the crossroads of all of your activity, and doing what you need to do to make sure that that's in the best position possible to give you the conversions that you're looking for. When you're looking for conversions and high quality leads, we want to make sure that we utilize all the resources that you have to enhance your audience targeting. And if you need some help and resources for that, we can support you in that area. As you're getting leads, like Rich mentioned, it can be easy to get someone to just submit the form, but you want to make sure that you're asking some qualifying questions in that form process, including what's the best way to contact you again, so that way you can make sure you get back in touch with them. And then really do try to position yourself and your team to be able to nurture those leads along the way, even after their initial inquiry. And then the last secret, Rich, that you shared with us, local is your superpower. There's a lot of benefit there and a lot of advantages that the councils who are on the call can have above independent agencies. So this is your recap, the 5 secrets that we wanted to share with you today. Rich, very quickly, can you just talk to us about this particular case study council example, just high level, since we've got some of our questions being answered in the chat?
Yeah, no problem. So this case study is on our website, I believe. So if you Google local IQ success stories, Foster 4, it'll be the first thing that comes up. But yeah, top line, we've worked with what was Warrington Council independently, Warrington Borough Council, and later became Foster 4, collaboration with a couple of surrounding authorities. We worked with them for 5 or 6 years now on a fostering campaign. We've doubled their inquiries in that time. On average, I think we were generating an inquiry a day at its peak. You can see some of the stats there on the screen. And they're the same challenge that most councils face into. The strategy was threefold. The first was paid search ads across Google and Bing. The second was a smart ads campaign across social media. So partly driving traffic to the website, but partly running ads with that lead capture form that we spoke about earlier, and some retargeting social ads as well. And the final thing was a display retargeting strategy. So we've got people to the website, they've gone away. How do we stay in touch with them? How they've not filled in the forms, how do we stay in front of them in that process? Lots of retargeting ads with strong USPs, call to actions, and those types of messaging. And there's a quote there from our contact there on the right hand side, but that's available online, so please feel free to go and look that up and get a bit more information about it.
Cool, thanks for sharing that. And then just a few other housekeeping things to note. So this webinar recording will be on its way to everyone on today's call on tomorrow, along with the PowerPoint slides. In addition to, because we may not have time to go through all of the questions, in addition to frequently asked questions from today's webinar that we'll put onto our blog. So we'll make sure that we include that. So if you can't see the questions that are being asked in the chat, you'll be able to see all of those answers, because there's some really great questions there. Another thing that you can do even today is to go to our website and submit your council's website into our free website grader, and it will give you back a report as to, or an evaluation of your website in these particular areas like website build, your social presence. It'll give you a score as to where you are and how you compare to some others in your particular space. So that's a free resource, and it's a great thing that you can use and take back to your meetings, again, to build the case for why you may want to do more in this space. Also, this is just one of our webinars, but we have a host of other webinars across all these different topics of digital marketing. You can go to it by going to our website and under resources, take a look at the webinars. So if you have questions about Facebook audience targeting, search engine optimization, common website mistakes, we have webinars in all of those areas. And if you'd like to follow up, if you'd like us to follow up with you because you may have some additional questions, feel free to reach out to us on our website, or when you leave and exit this webinar, there's a quick survey where you can feedback to us if this content was helpful. And then you can also let us know if you'd like us to reach out to you to answer any questions that you may have, or just to see how we can support you. And so with that, we're right at time. I see that all of the questions in the chat have already been answered by our colleagues. So special thank you to them in the background for answering those. Rich, thank you for sharing all of your insights and these secrets from all the council work that we've done here at Local IQ. And for everyone that's attending, thank you for taking time out of your day. We really do hope that this information was helpful, and we hope that you'll allow us to get in touch with you to see how we can support you even further. So thank you everyone for joining, and we hope to see you on our next webinar.